My guest today is part of one of the most successful girl groups of all time. And they've even an entry in the Guinness World Records for the most charted hits by a female group, beating even the Spice Girls and the Supremes. They left their homes in Bristol in 1980 and headed to the bright lights of London to study journalism and working at the BBC. Often found contributing impromptu backing vocals for the likes of Iggy Pop and The Jam, they secured a record deal and released their first single, which was an underground hit. This saw them feature in The Face magazine, which caught the eye of Terry Hall, who asked them to collaborate with his new group, the Funboy 3, scoring 2 collaborative hits in 1982, before going on to enjoy a 40-year career of huge hits in their own right. Their debut album, Deep Sea Skiving, garnered 3 Irish top 10 hits. It was the beginning of a huge run of chart success that would ultimately see them enjoy 22 top 20 Irish singles, spending 78 weeks on the Irish singles charts. They had 11 singles reach the Billboard Hot 100 in the US, and they've sold over 30 million records worldwide. Having been a 3-piece initially, they've now performed mostly as a duo for over 30 years and are still going strong. In 2018, they won the Classic Pop Readers Award for Group of the Year. And in 2020, they won Album of the Year for their 29 release in stereo. In 2020, they released their autobiography, fittingly titled Really Saying Something. It is a great read, highly recommended. And just last year, they released their hugely acclaimed album, Masquerade. They joined us last year at Forever Young, and we were inundated with requests for them to return. This year, they're celebrating 40 years, so they have a huge tour for this 40th anniversary, and it gave us the perfect reason to have them back at Forever Young as our headliners on the Sunday night. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome the wonderful Keren from Bananarama. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm all good, thanks.
Good. Well, we've got a load of questions that have come from our audience, if that's all right. So I'd just like to throw a few your way. So let's start off with Albert, who asks, what is the background to and the significance of the name Bananarama?
It was quite a random thing. We were Roxy Music fans, and they had a song called Pajama Rama. And our very first single was a cover of a dance track called Aye on Wana, which was sung in Swahili. And for some reason, we thought Bananarama, tropical, better than the pineapple chunks.
Yeah, I think that might not have stuck quite so well.
Well, I don't think we, for one moment, thought it would be 40 years with the name, but I guess it stands out.
It does. It's very unique, very unique. When Siobhan left, and again, after things didn't really gel with her replacement Jackie, were you ever close to kind of throwing in the towel and giving up and looking at other careers rather than continuing as a duo?
No, there was never a point, and still doesn't seem to be a point where we think of giving up. I mean, we absolutely love what we do. When Siobhan left, Sarah and I think, thought we could do a duo thing and were maybe talked into remaining a trio because that's how people saw us. And Jackie was someone we knew from clubs, so we would never have auditioned because that wasn't how the group worked. It came from friendship, and it still is about friendship. Sarah and I have known each other since we were 4. So it's been quite a long relationship, certainly the longest relationship I've had. And so, yeah, the thing is with Jackie, it wasn't that we didn't get on or any of that. She was always the new girl. And it's sort of, a couple of years in, still the new girl. Yeah. And it just came to a natural end. And Sarah, I mean, we've never stopped working, but we've stepped back and taken it easy a few times. And, after the sort of mayhem and madness of the 80s, we have had calmer periods. And I think there were points where we mostly concentrated on abroad as sort of almost giving a break to the people that had us forever in their lives. But yeah, the more recently, in the last, I don't know, it must be 15, even 20 years, we've done so many live shows, and I think we love being in the studio. We love doing the live work, and as long as we can carry on doing that, and thank goodness we have our health enough to do that, then we'll carry on.
Were you surprised to be named in the Guinness Book of Records that marks the achievement of your prolific chart success?
Well, that was quite early on that we went in the Guinness Book of Records. So at the time, it was an absolutely magnificent achievement, because I don't know when it was. I think it might have been sort of early 90s when we went into the Guinness Book of Records. And quite frankly, I can't see anyone beating the record, because no one's going to be going for as long as us.
Oh dear.
You'd be hard pushed.
Probably my favourite question. How much fun was it working on Help with French Saunders and Kathy Burke? And do you still keep in touch?
I still keep in touch with Dawn. I was in touch with her a couple of weeks ago. She was coming my way, because she's still in Cornwall and I'm in Cornwall. And sadly, I was off doing a show somewhere, so I couldn't see her. But yeah, we keep in touch. Dawn and I keep in touch. And it was the most magnificent fun.
Yeah.
And I know that they've said on various occasions that Ab Fab was highly influenced by us and someone falling out of a taxi because they'd had too much to drink. And to this day, we don't know who that was. And we're denying it was either of us.
Strictly denied, honestly.
Strictly denied.
Okay, so you appeared on both the original Band-Aid and Band-Aid 2 as a single. What was it like working on a project that was trying to recreate something so iconic?
I think the first one was just so new, something no one had done before, and it was just an incredible experience. And we really had no idea what the extent of the people there, or I don't know. We were asked by Bob Geldof to come and sing on a charity single, and we said yes. But I mean, I think you can tell by the way I'm dressed that I wasn't really even expecting Cam to be there. I mean, it was the most amazing experience, and it was quite overwhelming. I think we were very shy, and we spoke to, I think, Paul Weller and George Michael, because they were the two that we knew, and Boy George. But it was quite the day, as in such a shocker having sort of Bono start singing and thinking, God, I can't hear myself. It was like a foghorn going off. It's like, but to get all those people, I mean, an amazing experience. The second one was done by Stock Aitken Waterman, and we were working with them at the time. And I mean, anything that raises money for charity and awareness of whatever is a brilliant experience. I mean, nothing could quite. I don't think any charity record ever could top the original Band-Aid. No. It was just of its time and extraordinary.
Yeah, different world now, isn't it? I don't things like that don't happen anymore, but it was very, as you say, of its time. So Edwards asked, did you ever meet Robert De Niro after naming a song after him?
Yes. Yes, we did.
Brilliant.
We did. He called us. We were living in a council high-rise, the three of us, of course. And Sarah's boyfriend answered the phone that we had, a payphone actually, so to save arguments in our hallway, and said, "Oh, Bob De Niro's on the phone," and we just thought that's ridiculous, as if he'd be calling us in our council flat. And indeed, it was him. Wow. And we shoved Siobhan on the phone to him, and sat around listening. And yeah, his PR had told him about the song, and he asked us if we wanted to go out for a drink, which we did. Fantastic. And it was, I mean, I don't know, it's quite extraordinary, really, being, invited out for a drink. He was in town filming Brazil at the time. And we obviously wanted to appear cool, and it told all our boyfriends and friends that they couldn't come, but told them where we were going so they could position themselves in the bar and view from afar, because they were all hugely excited as well.
Oh, fantastic. So this is a question really for Sarah, but it works with both of you. Sarah's daughter Alice D is a singer-songwriter now in her own right, but she also co-wrote some tracks on Masquerade.
Yes, she did.
What was it like working, with one of your own?
Well, I think I can hold my hand up and say that I'm possibly her biggest fan. I think because I've obviously known her since she was born, I struggle to listen to Alice without shedding a tear. She always laughs at me. I find her lyrics and her singing really emotional. And I think she wrote some, because we wrote the second album in lockdown. So I was sort of working remotely from here, and then Sarah and Alice were in a bubble. So they wrote a few songs, the two of them, and it was fantastic having her input. I think she brought something new in, and she advises us on lots of things, Alice. She does our social media, and she has been involved when we did the Masquerade video. She did the styling. She's just a great person to bounce ideas off. And I'm just, I'm, like I say, I'm a huge fan. Long may she continue to do her own stuff and be involved in what we do.
Brilliant. Yep. Getting different input from the younger people now. As you say, social media and everything else, everyone knows. The generation that came after us knows a lot more.
Yeah. I'm afraid we do stuff for Alice, but I think I personally posted one last year. I'm not really on top of social media.
No.
I think I'm just a bit old-fashioned, and I think, what am I going to do if I'm working? It's on the official thing. If I'm not working, I'm going to be
you don't want to be on social media,
with
do
the
you?
dog on the beach. I mean, I'd be posting the same things every day, which I think would be quite.
You mentioned your dog. Our festival is an animal welfare fundraiser. What sort of dogs have you got, or dog? I can see somebody in the background there.
My little dog. She's a Whippet Cross, and she's very, very beautiful.
Oh,
and
lovely.
She'll be going to the beach after we finish this.
So Midge directed your video for Shy Boy. At the time, he was huge with Ultravox. So how did that come about?
Do you know what? I absolutely have no idea. Maybe that's something he was getting into at the time. It certainly wasn't big budget. It was all sort of homemade clothes and hand painted sets and quite cartoony. I wonder if he did the one for Really Say Something as well. I don't know, but occasionally we come across Midge on our travels.
Yeah.
Doing some shows, and it's good to see he's still going as well. We're not the only ones.
No.
I think he was going before us with Ultravox, so he must be well into his 40 years.
Oh yes, and he did a stint with Thin Lizzy. So of course in Ireland everyone loves him, because anyone that's
Who doesn't love Thin Lizzy?
Exactly. Anyone that was part of the Thin Lizzy, they're like gods over here.
Grew up with them.
Yeah. You were self-confessed fans of punk, yet your music was always pop. Did you ever feel you wanted to kind of dabble into releasing something on the punk genre?
It's funny because the punk thing, obviously in our background, we have Paul Cook and the Pistols, who organised our first demo, and Sarah and I lived in the Sex Pistols rehearsal room after the Sex Pistols. But it was more of an expression that I think with us. We would go to see the Clash or the Ramones and go to punk gigs dressed as punks, but then the next night we'd go into a funk club, and we always loved pop and funk and disco. And I think I love a lot of different genres of music, I love some rock tracks. I think for us doing pop just became quite a natural thing, and I think, and pop and dance, for me, I love a melody. I think maybe the punk genre wouldn't be melodic enough for me. I mean, I was reared singing in choirs, so I love a melody and a harmony, and they don't feature hugely in punk.
No.
So no, pop's a much better place for
Better
me to be
fit.
personally.
A better fit. Oops.
This
Oh,
year,
look, there she is. What's her name?
Winnie.
Winnie. Oh, bless
Very
her. Oh, she's beautiful. And she's saying, "Come on, Mum, it's time to go for a walk." So we'll get these questions finished.
Yes.
How did the decision to record Shocking Blues Venus come about?
It was when we used to be in the Sex Pistols rehearsal room, and Paul and Steve had a band, and we used to badger them into playing cover versions that we'd sing along to, and really saying something. Venus, Nana, hey, kind of the early covers we did were all ones that we had sort of done with them, and I guess they were songs we loved and we always wanted to do it. That was the first one we recorded with Stockache and Waterman, and we went to them, and I remember Peter Waterman saying, "You can't have guitars on a pop record," and we think, well, worth a go. So and it was absolutely huge worldwide, so it paid off. And certainly the lovely Dutchman who wrote it was thrilled to bits.
Oh,
We met
brilliant.
him when we were in Amsterdam doing a
Brilliant.
TV, and he could not have been more thrilled. I think it sort of revitalised it for him as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lovely. So you were juggling pregnancies, motherhood, recording, touring. How and again, we don't see so much of that because the industry has been dominated by so many men. So how does it work out juggling family life and keeping your career still as vibrant as you've kept it?
I think nowadays probably more accepted and an easier thing. I mean, I was very conscious in the 80s. I think I wanted to keep the group going, and I felt I didn't want to let anyone down. And sadly, there was a lot of pressure on women. I think it's much more acceptable now for female artists to take time out to have a child, or but it really wasn't. And I find it quite upsetting because I've spoken only recently about pressure that was put on me to not have the baby because it was inconvenient, and I feel that was absolutely outrageous. And luckily I was a strong enough character to make my own decisions, and I had the backing of my bandmates, may I say, which helped hugely. But it wasn't an easy thing. It wasn't an easy thing to do. I mean, we were working so hard. But I sort of took on, I guess, what was at the time a traditional male role where, I was at home and I was a mother, and then I was out working and I was doing all the traveling. And it was tough, and it kind of did lead to some mental strain, let's say.
No, absolutely. Of course it does. Yeah.
Still here, and he's getting married next week, week after next.
Oh, really? Oh, how
36
fantastic.
now, so it was a long time ago.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's something really exciting coming up.
I know, very
Oh,
exciting.
wonderful. So Claire has asked, what do you think about the modern girl bands?
I think they're very different from us, but I think they're brilliant. I think I think vocally, and if you listen to, I don't know, a group like Little Mix, vocally extraordinary. I think it's very different and much more stylized. And I mean, I'd like to think that girls don't feel pressure to, we never felt pressure to dress a certain way. As you can see, we wore dungarees, or we wore, and I feel as long as they're able to do what they want to do and not feel pressure to look a certain way or be a certain way. And I think that is inherent in particularly teenage girl culture these days, the pressure because of social media to look a certain way or act a certain way. And I think it's it's a very difficult thing to deal with. I have friends who have teenage daughters, and it is a constant struggle. It's a shame in some ways, because you should be able to sort of grow in confidence and develop yourself as in how you want to be, and not with an image someone thrust upon you. And I like to think that female artists would be able to feel comfortable, but I don't necessarily think that's always the case.
Not always the case,
sadly.
No. It is a very different world, and social media is.
It is a very different world.
Social media is quite a scary beast, as well as it's for all its benefits. It's also quite damaging.
Very scary, and it seems to dominate the lives, particularly I think of young women.
It does, unfortunately. So Normski's asked, what
has he?
Yeah.
we know Normski very well.
Normski has asked, if you were releasing another single from Masquerade, what will it be? And will we hear Forever Young at Forever Young?
I'm not sure we'll be releasing another single from Masquerade, although we have been asked to maybe release a track called Stay Wild. And will we be doing Forever Young at Forever Young? I'd like to think so. It would seem quite fitting.
I think so. Absolutely, it does.
We had an absolute ball at Forever Young last year.
Oh, brilliant.
It was just amazing.
Oh, that's coming up. Philip has asked, girls, you were the best act last year. Really classy and professional performance. You knocked it out of the park. Do you still get the same buzz out of it?
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. It shows. It shows.
It's amazing how, especially if last year when we did Forever Young, we'd had a show the night before. We got home at 2 a.m. We got up at 5:30 in the morning to fly out to Ireland to do Forever Young. And you're there thinking, why am I doing this? I can barely stand up. And yet you walk on and you get that reaction. And I have to say the crowd were just incredible. And you are energized and lifted into, and I think I've been to see groups where you think you're not even enjoying that. And I think I feel it, and therefore I don't enjoy it. You have to have that energy to entertain a crowd.
Yeah.
It's almost catching. And the joy of hearing people sing your songs back, and just the hands in the air or something. I still find it quite incredible. It never fails to amaze me.
Well, it was lovely last year because Tiffany came down the front, if you remember. She'd done her set, and I think she said she toured with you back in the day, or opened for you sometime. And she said,
we did an Australian thing.
Yeah. She said, can I come down the front? I was like, come down. We were all boogieing away. So it was lovely. It was a really brilliant. And you could see how much you guys were enjoying it. So hopefully we'll be able to do that and more this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So a Bananarama fan has asked, so that's obviously one of your regular fans, what happened to the promised I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight cover that we were waiting for?
Love that song. Funnily enough, when we toured with Tiffany in Australia, they were on and did that song. It's just an absolute corker. I think we may have recorded it once.
The Bananarama fan has said they believed that they were promised you were going to be doing it as a cover, so they're obviously still waiting.
Well, I'm just trying to think back. I mean, God, the amount of stuff we've recorded and hasn't been. Well, maybe that's something to do. Dig out all the ones that have never been released.
That's it. That could be
I think we may have actually recorded it. We certainly love the song.
Yeah, it's a great song. Okay, so the last question we have for you, Keren. Lisa has asked, when I was asked when I was younger what I wanted to be when I grew up, the answer was always Bananarama. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
A teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had a few teachers in the family, and I just presumed that's what I would do. I think I wanted to be a teacher, which seems a bit odd now because I'm sure I would have been a terrible one.
Well, that's our questions for today. It's been an absolute pleasure and a delight to speak to you. I know your dog's desperate to get down on the beach in Cornwall on a lovely
She
day.
can hear a mate outside.
Oh,
She's got a
right.
friend who comes to call for her.
Okay, so she's ready to
That's
go. But it was absolutely lovely to talk to you, Karen. We can't wait to see you in July. Thanks for
And
joining
I
us.
can't wait to be there.
All right, see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks
Bye.
very much for having me.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Only you can say